previously, in the land of the wolf, young Louis stood guard at the eastern Kingbird's Marsh, near which his father had buried the remains of a beaver. Raynald, who was filming wild orchids in the plantation, was surprised by white paws in Hiawatha. Luckily, neither of them showed any concern. The coming weeks will keep us very busy. Everything indicates that in addition to wolves, we will have the joy of observing moose, including those frequenting the bay of our beaver neighbors. And we are curious to find out where the mascot of our base camp, Goodell the woodchuck, will settle down. Since we know White Paws, this is the first year we have been able to document her daily life. She travels a lot to hunt and feed her pups, while ensuring no foreign wolves have entered the pack territory, where the high number of moose, beavers, and other prey meets the needs of her family. A mother with many responsibilities, whom we admire for her intelligence. And what about the environment in which we have the privilege of filming her? My parents and I never felt lonely in the land of the wolf. Encounters with wildlife varied from one day to the next, but one constant remained: balance. I think the wild filled our soul with its original harmony. Without realizing it, we accumulated inspiration and peace for the rest of our life. The morning watch often has surprises in store for us, such as the cautious return of Hiawatha to one of his caches. Is it the presence of White Paws that prompts him to move this beaver carcass to a safe place? Louis respects his father, but like all young, he is sometimes rebellious. It is normal for Hiawatha to repress any lack of respect towards him. The law of wolves dictates he serves himself first. Louis must wait. White Paws and her eldest son will have their share. Despite his excitement, Louis knows very well that his mother takes precedence over him when it comes time to eat the remains left by Hiawatha. By eating before the others, Hiawatha did not act out selfishly. Part of his meal will be regurgitated to the pups and Comey, who are confined to the den. White Paws and Louis left as soon as Hiawatha called them. What luck we had. In the forest, these large carnivores feed under cover, and it is difficult to study them. The recent plantations offered a clear view, which made it possible to observe their interactions, but we had to be very patient. The three wolves knew we were watching them, hidden in our vehicle, and they behaved naturally. It was reasonable to think they would act the same way in other circumstances. That is exactly what happened when they came across a female bear with cubs. Once her cubs are safe, the bear faces danger. I would be surprised if the wolves exposed themselves to injury by attacking such a determined opponent. Faced with such a combative bear, the wolves understand they have to retreat. Healthy, adult black bears have the strength and experience to stand up to a trio of wolves. In case of problems, they can take refuge in a tree. For other species, escape is the only way out. One afternoon, we witnessed an adventure that ended well for a fox. We are almost certain it was our friend Ginger bringing a big woodchuck back to her kits. If the wolves had spotted the fox, they would have chased it. After this memorable start of the season, heavy rains kept us locked in the camp for several days. Even when the sky cleared, the wind continued to blow. And then, one morning, we woke up in summer. As the weather conditions were favorable again, we headed towards the marsh of the eastern kingbirds. We were afraid that the heavy rains had damaged the abandoned roads and the plantations. The situation was even worse. A beaver dam had burst and the waters had washed away a culvert. The beavers had started to rebuild their dam. Without equipment, we could not do the same with the road. We were losing access to a rich observation area. We were disappointed, it's true. But when one door closes, usually another one opens. That year, a few moose frequented the Chubbys Bay. They found an abundance of food in the clearings created by the beaver activities over the past years. Without neglecting the wolves, we had to take time to observe what was happening 5 minutes from the camp. The handsome Clara takes advantage of the early morning to feed in a clearing, where white-bog-orchids and tall meadow rose grow. The Chubbys are good neighbors for this cow moose, who often stops to ruminate between the lake and the forest. We don't know why she doesn't have calves. Spring predation? Miscarriage during the winter? Infertility? No matter what ordeal she has recently gone through, she lives in the present moment with serenity, like many little beings. For birds, and even smaller creatures, Clara is a giant. What a view must have this grasshopper eating very close to her. One drop of dew is enough to quench the insect's thirst. If she gets up, Clara could disturb this young grasshopper in the process of molting. Before reaching the adult stage, as it grows, it must shed several times the membrane covering its body. Clara seems indifferent to the complex and wonderful world of the Lilliputians around her. But this is not the case for the American redstarts, which nest 100 meters away. Parents feed their nestlings with mayflies, caterpillars, and other insects. The kind of scene Raynald loves to film, while staying discreetly far from the nest. For him, monitoring the American redstart family compensates for the loss of the eastern kingbirds. This wooded area dotted with clearings seduced Goodell, who settled there, much to the dismay of the male redstart. Is the bird right to be worried about his new neighbor? Knowing the woodchuck sometimes eats invertebrates and nestlings within its reach, baby redstarts have an interest in not falling out of the nest. What if it climbed? The mother does not seem to worry too much about Gisèle. Raynald is reassured. Further down, in the vegetation, other encounters go almost unnoticed. Frequently called daddy longlegs, the harvestman often sets its feet in the wrong places. The creatures in its path know something about it. It is difficult to avoid this neighbor with its groping steps. Once the daddy longlegs is gone, a boxing match is preparing between two grasshoppers. All this fussiness because the insects wanted to pass on the same iris leaf. All things considered, I much prefer the company of the Chubbys. My beaver friends are very busy on this nice morning. Aspen bark is a treat for beavers. One of the Chubbys briefly disturbs Clara's rest. The beavers have no fear of the great queen of the woods. Living within this community of free animals is an immense privilege for me. Clouds appeared in mid-afternoon. The Chubbys sleep in their lodge, while Clara is eating leaves and twigs. Once sated, She lies down in her favorite grass bedding to ruminate among the ferns and white-bog-orchids. A spoilsport is in sight. Clara hates being bothered when she is ruminating, especially by a young male looking for distraction. The young bull understands he had better withdraw. Wildlife observation is one thing. Interpreting what we observe is another. To accurately interpret the behavior of a wild animal, one must have observed it in its natural environment over a long period of time. The moose, its way of life, its gestural and sound language have almost no secrets for me. However, my experience with the birds does not equal that I have with most mammals. In the land of the wolf, I went from surprise to surprise concerning the species I had never had the time or the opportunity to look into. This was the case with the killdeer. One day, when we arrived at our lookout post in the dead-end clearing, we noticed that the nest was empty, as we no longer saw the parents. We believed something bad had happened. So imagine our amazement a few weeks later, when we saw 4 healthy young killdeer with their parents. You will soon be able to get to know this charming family. In the next episode, I will share with you our first observations of a female wood duck, mother of 3 adorable ducklings for whom we have developed a profound attachment. The wolves will experience new adventures, and Raynald will have trouble with a bear. All this and more in the land of the wolf.
Miigwech Manitous, oya hey yo, Vinnerge mahingen, we yo, mahingen giguna skak me kwebe masne kanishna be haya we